Imagine spending years building something beautiful with your own hands, only for an HOA Karen to destroy it out of greed. That's exactly what happened to me when a power-hungry HOA president decided my private bridge was the perfect shortcut for her construction project. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't just any homeowner. I was an engineer who knew how to make her regret every tire mark. Before we dive in, let me know which country you're watching from in the comments below. And if you enjoy these real-life HOA revenge stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more stories just like this. The story began in a quiet lakeside neighborhood where my small property sat on the edge of a winding creek. The creek wasn't large, but it cut my land in half. So years ago, I built a small wooden bridge across it. It wasn't fancy, but it was strong enough to carry my truck and farm equipment. It was also mine, on private land, paid for and maintained by me alone. Across the creek, the Homeowners Association had recently started a beautification project, which in simple terms meant they were tearing down old houses and putting up oversized luxury builds. The HOA president, a woman everyone called Karen, for good reason, was in charge. She had a reputation for ignoring boundaries, both literal and personal. At first, I didn't pay her much attention. The HOA didn't govern my land, and I like to keep to myself. But that changed one Monday morning when I woke up to the rumble of engines. Cement trucks, 3 of them, were driving across my bridge. My bridge. I stepped outside to see the ground vibrating under their weight. The bridge creaked, groaned, and flexed as tons of concrete rolled across it. They were hauling supplies to a new construction site behind the creek, and instead of taking the long route through the main road, they'd decided to use my property as a shortcut. By the time I got to the edge of my driveway, they were already gone, leaving deep tire marks in the dirt and small cracks forming along the planks. I knew right away who was behind it. The HOA had apparently told the construction company they had permission to use my bridge for easier access. Permission I never gave. I patched the cracks that week, thinking it was a one-time thing, but it wasn't. The next few days, the same trucks came again. Cement mixers, dump trucks, even delivery vans, rolling across as if my property was a public road. Every time they did, I could hear the bridge crying under the weight. And every time, Karen's smug SUV followed behind, watching over the convoy like she owned the place. I put up a sign that said, "Private property, no access." The next morning, it was gone. Torn off, pole snapped clean in half. That was when I knew she wasn't just ignoring me, she was taunting me. I called the county, but they said because the bridge was on private land, enforcement wasn't their issue. I even sent an email to the HOA board, and the response I got was short. The HOA will continue its development work as planned. That was the final straw. I'd built that bridge myself, which meant I knew every beam, every bolt, and every weakness. And I also knew exactly how to make it appear perfectly safe, until it wasn't. For the next few nights, I got to work. I reinforced the bridge supports, but not in the way you'd think. I built a false section, an overlay of planks and braces that looked identical to the real structure, but were hollow underneath, strong enough to hold a car, but not several tons of cement. To be sure no one would get hurt, I installed a pair of steel guard games underneath, invisible from the side. They'd catch the bridge before a total collapse, but the effect would still be dramatic, enough to make any trespasser think twice. A week later, I saw the headlights again. 3 trucks, followed by Karen's white luxury SUV, creeping toward the bridge in the early morning fog. I watched from my porch as the first truck rolled over. The bridge flexed, then snapped with a deafening crack. The entire front half dropped nearly 2 feet before the safety beams caught it. Cement sloshed, tires spun, and the driver jumped out in panic. The second truck screeched to a stop, the third reversed, and Karen's SUV came to a halt mid-bridge. Her face went from smug to terrified in seconds. She threw her door open, shouting orders to the workers, but the scene was chaos. One of the trucks was wedged halfway into the gap, the bridge bent and useless. The county sheriff showed up within an hour. Apparently, one of the construction workers had called 911 thinking the bridge had collapsed completely. When they found out it was private land, the whole story started to unravel fast. Karen tried to argue her case, saying the bridge looked public and that I'd built it too close to HOA land, but when the sheriff looked at my property line records, complete with legal surveys and coordinates, it was crystal clear. The HOA had no authority whatsoever. In fact, they were now facing damage liability for trespassing, property destruction, and unauthorized use of private land. The sheriff was polite but firm. The trucks were impounded for investigation, the construction was halted, and Karen was given a court summons. The next week, HOA members started showing up to my door, not to complain, but to apologize. They hadn't realized Karen had been lying to them, using HOA funds to push her personal development project. She was removed from the board within days. The best part? The HOA ended up paying for full reconstruction of my bridge, including materials, labor, and repairs to the creek bank they had damaged. I even upgraded the whole thing to reinforce steel beams and oak planks, strong enough to handle a small tank if I wanted. Karen's project was never completed. The lot stayed half-developed, and she eventually sold her house and moved away. Some said she couldn't stand the embarrassment. Others said the HOA board forced her out quietly. Either way, she never drove across my bridge again.